You gave a very interesting TED Talk on the differences between men and women. What is the difference between men and women?
How much time do we have? So let's start out with the first thing, which is people are weird.
Right. You can say that again.
When we do experiments and measure brain activity while people do a task that we give them to do, we have an average of brain activity, and then we have this huge variation. And sometimes that variation falls down on male and female, old or young. Sometimes it's just kind of random. We can't really tell where the variation comes from. So although at its core, brains work very similarly, for tasks that are kind of interesting, social behaviors, things I study, lots of variation in how brains work. For oxytocin, for example, every study I've run in the last 15 years, on average, women release more than men, and they're subsequently more trustworthy, more generous, more charitable. They're nicer than we are. For men, high levels of testosterone inhibit oxytocin. So who are the least empathic people on the planet? Teenage boys, because you and I used to be teenage boys, and we can tell you for sure we're all about us. The point is that all these chemicals in our brain, roughly about 200 of them, are changing second by second to help us survive and reproduce. There are a whole variety of reasons that men and women are different, and I think, again, from a neuroscience perspective, I just want to embrace that difference. I don't need to explain it, and whatever differences there are, I think if we're accepting of those around us, if we love those around us, in the philia sense, right, if we care about them,
right,
the differences can disappear.
You said that women are nicer than men. I've never heard a man or woman say that, because it is a given that women are nicer or not nicer than men.
Really?
Right. Women drive people, not all, but most. They drive men crazy. They drive the children crazy. They drive the cat and the dog crazy.
Right.
Why do you say women you're the only one I ever heard that. Why do you say women are nicer when they tend to destroy everything?
Great question. So I'm taking a very narrow neuroscience view. And I mean, from a neurologic perspective, they release more oxytocin. So we see more women sort of crying at movies or being concerned for children. I love my kids a ton, but my wife's really more acutely aware of kind of their subtle emotional states. So women's brains are anatomically different than men's, and they're able to, on average, again, wide variation around the average, but able to assess social information more effectively. That makes them tend to be more caring, more empathic than men are.
But that caring is so destructive. The kids end up hating the mother for that caring, because it destroys their innocence. Whereas the father tends not to be so involved like that.
Right.
And the way that he did with the children tend to protect the innocent. Mm-hmm. So is that good that women are that nice and on the kids that way?
I think it's beautiful that nature has made us sexual creatures where we have men and women who raise children, generally. And so you get both those influences. So with my kids, my wife's super careful and safe, just like you said. And my feeling is if I'm going out, you're going out with dad, besides, I don't know, broken bones, get a little bloody, get bruised, fine, it's no big deal.
Right.
We're doing something cool. So I think that balance is very good for children.
How old are your kids?
Teenagers, 18 and 14.
Do they complain about their mother being so into them like that?
Absolutely.
And do you tell the mother to back off?
I tell them to take a break. I say, Mom's trying her best, and she's concerned about you, and let's go for a walk, or let's go to the park, or something else.
But do you ever tell the mother to back off because it's irritating, they don't want it? Do you say, honey, back away?
I try.
And what happens?
I don't make much progress.
You don't?
No. Even Dr. Love fails sometimes.
When I saw the title, Dr. Love, and I noticed that you're tall, you're handsome, you're out there in the world doing your thing. Does your wife ever get jealous of you?
I don't think so. I think it's my job to make sure she feels loved and secure. I don't think she understood early on in our marriage how my job is to travel, my job is to talk to people, my job is to generate support for my lab and develop relationships. And but I think now I'm old, so I'm not a threat to anybody.
How do you deal with it when she does fall into that jealous mode?
Yeah.
What do you do? And is it due to all this oxytocin stuff coming out, or how do you deal with that when she get into her jealous mode?
Yeah, that's a great question. So oxytocin does appear to kind of drive this jealousy. So you're very attached to that person.
Yeah.
You need that oxytocin release, and so you want to protect him or her from getting away from you. I don't think I'm great at it. I think I just try to take a break and then, come back to it later. So I think these hot states, that we get into, I think are not great for anybody.
Is there any medicine you can give her to cut the oxytocin off at that moment?
Yeah.
Maybe a quick shot or something?
Yeah.
Stop the flow?
Let's say hugs, not drugs.
So you still believe that women are nicer than men?
Yeah, when we study them in the laboratory, we certainly see that. So
is it a good thing that they're nicer or not so good?
I think it is what it is. I think, we do tasks where we allow people to share money with strangers or donate money to charity. Women always give more money to others, right? So
yeah, they do.
And it correlates with oxytocin. So
is that due to the emotions that the oxytocin brings on?
It does.
So they identify with the emotions.
But women are harder to initiate that kind of social interaction. Men will interact right away.
Right.
It may be a safety issue. But once you treat them nicely, boom, they just want to take care of you. So on average, again, there are women in the extreme of the distribution. There are women with very high testosterone levels. There are men with very low testosterone levels, men with higher estrogen. So we are a variable species, and we should expect, even among our loved ones, some variation.
You also explain women remember further back than men.
Yeah.
Like you can do something that they didn't like 30 years ago, and you've forgotten all about it.
Right.
And here you are just kind of tiptoeing through the tulips. Right. And she'll remind you of something that happened 30 years ago. And why is that?
Women actually have an enlarged area in the brain that helps them access long-term memories. So they're just better at remembering stuff. And again, I could tell you sort of why nature may have done that.
Right.
Women are gatherers, men are hunters. We also tend to be more focused, kind of monotaskers. That's driven a lot by testosterone. And so we like to do one thing at a time. Women are better at integrating information across domains. And so I think it's easier for them to recall all these subtle details, where I'm just doing one thing at a time.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
Is it good to hold on to memories like that for so long? Because a lot of time they use it against you, and then you can't even remember what really happened, so you're not able to defend it.
Right.
Is that a good idea to hold on to things like that? Or is it better to be like a man and just deal with it, forget it, and move on?
Let it go. Yeah. I think if you can move on, it's probably a little healthier. But sometimes you do want to remember some of those details.
Why?
Oh, maybe it's not just the fights, it's the children's first step. I can't remember my kid's first step, but I'm sure my wife could tell me where it was, what day of the week it was. My children have all those details. So again, I think it's kind of a beautiful thing that we're, at least we're heterosexuals, we're attracted to people who are so weird compared to us, right? We just can't figure out. So women drive us nuts, but they're super interesting because they're so different than us. And they smell nice too.